My new coworker calls my wife our wife. My coworker Damon has been calling my wife Reese our wife for 2 months now. At first I thought it was a joke. Now I'm genuinely scared. Reese and I have been married 14 months. She works from home as an architect, so she's the one who drops off lunch when I forget it, who picks me up after late shifts, who shows up to the office holiday party and charms everyone in the room. My coworkers loved her from the start. She fixes the broken coffee machine, brings homemade banana bread for the whole floor, remembers everyone's birthday. She's perfect. Then Damon got divorced in March. That's when everything changed. It started small, the way these things always do. So small that naming it out loud would have made me sound paranoid. When Reese dropped off my lunch, bringing extra sandwiches for the team out of politeness, Damon would linger at my desk. He wouldn't just say thanks and walk off like everyone else. He'd stay. He'd lean a hip against my cubicle wall and watch her cross the floor toward the elevator, and he'd say, "She's so thoughtful. My ex could never. You're so lucky." He'd stare at her expectantly, like he wanted her to offer him something more, like there was some other thing owed to him that a sandwich didn't cover. When she fixed the coffee machine, sleeves rolled up, elbow deep in the drip tray because nobody else on the floor could be bothered to learn how, he'd watch and comment on her hands. "So capable," he'd say, low, almost to himself. "I need a woman like that." Reese would get uncomfortable. I could see it in the set of her shoulders, the way her smile got tight and polite, and she'd tell me she had to get back to a deadline and slip out early. Then came the "our wife" comments. First as jokes. That's how they land at the beginning. Always as jokes, so that objecting makes you the humorless one. Reese would text me she was bringing coffee, and Damon, reading over my shoulder the way he'd started to do, would say, "Ah, our wife is so sweet." Reese would carry boxes to my car after a late night, and he'd watch from the window and say, when I came back up, "Look at our wife being helpful." The first few times I let it slide because what do you even say? But it kept coming, and one afternoon I finally turned around. "It's not funny," I told him. He held up his hands, all wounded innocence. "Relax, it's just a joke. We're basically work husbands, so we share everything, right?" "No," I said. "We're co-workers. We share a printer, not a wife." He laughed like I'd made the joke, not him, and went back to his desk, and I told myself I'd handled it, that he'd get the message. He did not get the message. The behavior escalated. He started showing up. We have a company app that shows everyone's calendar for scheduling, meeting rooms, that kind of thing, and it turns out if you're determined enough, you can see more than you're supposed to. Whenever Reese and I planned a dinner, and I put it on my calendar so I wouldn't book over it, Damon would text me almost immediately. "Where are you two going? Can I tag along?" And if we didn't respond, if we just quietly let it drop, he'd appear anyway. Restaurants, the little Italian place we like on the east side, the farmer's market on Saturday mornings, even once on a quiet anniversary walk by the river, a walk I hadn't told anyone about, a walk that was just supposed to be us. And there was Damon, coming toward us on the path, acting like he'd randomly bumped into us, hands in his pockets, that surprised, delighted smile. "Fancy running into you two here." We started turning off my location sharing because we became convinced he was tracking where we were, and the strange thing is that turning it off didn't stop him, which meant he had other ways of knowing. "Just wanted to say hi to our wife," he'd chirp if we tried to slip away. After the quarterly review, the office had drinks at the bar down the block. I got tipsy, happy tipsy, and I stepped outside to call Reese and tell her I loved her, the kind of sappy call you make when you've had 2 beers and you miss your wife. Damon followed me out, and before I understood what was happening, he grabbed my phone away. He's much stronger than me, and it wasn't playful the way he took it, and he put it to his ear and started talking to her about his dating life, about how hard it was out there after a divorce, about how she was so lucky. "You should teach me some things," he told her, and he laughed harder when she went silent on the other end, when she didn't know what to say to this near stranger holding her husband's phone. "What?" he said. "Can't handle guy talk about our wife?" I finally got the phone back, and he just grinned at me, loose and pleased with himself, and I remember standing on that sidewalk with my heart going and thinking, for the first time in plain words, that something was actually wrong with him. Reese started avoiding the office entirely after that. When she did drop by, she'd barely stay 5 minutes, in and out, wouldn't take her coat off, and Damon would track her the whole time. He'd get up from his desk and drift toward wherever she was, and when she left, he'd follow her to the elevator, and I started catching him watching the lobby camera feed on his monitor, that little grainy black and white rectangle minimized in the corner of his screen among his spreadsheets, the front doors of our building, waiting to see who came and went. Waiting, I understood later, for her. Last week was the breaking point. Reese surprised me for our anniversary, arriving at the office to take me to lunch while I was stuck in a meeting that ran long. My work friend Priya texted me under the table. "Your wife's here, but something weird is happening." I made an excuse and slipped out, and I came around the corner to my desk and stopped dead. Damon was at my desk. He was wearing my spare blazer, the one I keep in my bottom drawer for last-minute client meetings, and he was sitting in my chair, leaned back, comfortable, and Reese was standing pressed against the cubicle wall with her arms wrapped around herself, looking trapped, looking for an exit, and he had her cornered there with nothing but pleasant conversation. "What are you doing?" Damon stood up slowly, unbothered, my blazer sitting wrong on his shoulders. "I was just showing our wife what it would look like if I worked closer to her." "Get Get up. Get away from her. He smiled and smoothed the front of the blazer like it was his. It's an open office, he said, and she didn't seem to mind sitting here with me. Did you, Reese? Reese found her voice and it came out shaking with anger. I told you I needed to wait for my husband, she said, and she stepped away from the wall toward me. You sat down in his chair and started talking like we were a couple. That's not normal. Damon just tilted his head at her, patient, like she'd gotten it all wrong. You left his seat open, he said. That's basically an invitation. I went to HR that afternoon. All of it spilling out, the blazer, the phone at the bar, the showing up, our wife. The woman I spoke to nodded and took a few notes and then told me that since nothing physical had happened, it was really just an interpersonal conflict, something to work out between the two of us like adults. An interpersonal conflict. I asked at least to be moved to a different floor, to put some distance between his desk and mine, and she said they'd look into it. They did not look into it. 2 days later, Reese told me she didn't want to come to the office anymore at all. We were doing dishes and she said it quietly, not looking at me, and I could hear how much it cost her to admit it. I'm sorry, she said, but he scares me. Last time he was wearing your blazer, sitting in your chair like he lived there. What's next? I understood. I hated it, but I understood. Damon was poisoning something good in my life, taking my wife's easy warmth, the way she used to breeze into my office and light up the whole floor, and turning it into something she now had to be afraid of. Yesterday, I came back from lunch to find Damon at my computer. I'd stepped away for 10 minutes, and I'd left it unlocked because who locks their screen for 10 minutes on their own floor? He was scrolling through my photos, and when I came up behind him, he didn't even flinch. He'd found pictures of Reese and me, private ones from our honeymoon. Nothing explicit, just personal, just ours. The two of us on a beach in a hotel room mirror, laughing at something off camera. Ours, he said softly, looking at the screen. Get away from my computer. Our wife looks good in these, he said. I sent a few to myself. Hope you don't mind. That's not okay, I said, and my voice was climbing. I'm reporting you. He looked up at me, calm, almost bored. With what proof? They're on my phone now, I said. Could have gotten them anywhere, he said with a little shrug. Maybe Reese sent them to me directly. Maybe we have our own thing going. She would never, I said, and my hands were shaking. Who would people believe, he said, standing up, straightening his shirt. The jealous husband or the friendly coworker who just happened to receive some photos. That's when I noticed something else on my screen. My email was open to a draft I hadn't written, addressed to Reese. A long message ending things, saying cruel things, vicious things, things I would never in 1,000 years say to her. Damon had written it, sitting at my desk, pretending to be me. Don't worry, he said, watching my face as I read it. I didn't send it yet, but I could. I know your password. You really shouldn't use the same one for everything. I changed all my passwords that afternoon, every account I could think of, long random strings I couldn't even remember. I started locking my computer every single time I stood up, even for a second, even to refill my water. But when I got to my desk this morning, there was a sticky note stuck to my monitor. A locked screen won't keep me from our wife. Check your phone. And when I checked my phone, there was a text sent from my own number to Reese at 4 in the morning. We need to talk. Coming to see you today. We have something to tell you. Love, D. I never sent that text. I was asleep. My phone was on my nightstand all night. Reese had already texted back hours ago while I was still asleep. Who is D? Why is he coming here? Nathan, what is going on? I tried calling her, but she wouldn't pick up. Damon is gone. His desk is empty, his bag gone. Reese works from our home, 25 minutes away. He left over an hour ago. He's there right now, and I don't know what he's telling her. I'm shaking so badly I can barely hold my phone as I try calling Reese again. It goes straight to voicemail for the 4th time. Damon has been near our house for at least 20 minutes now. I have no idea what he's saying to her or what he might do. The office feels too loud suddenly. The keyboards and the chatter all blurring together. I get up from my desk and pace from my cubicle to the break room and back, checking my phone every few seconds. There's no location dot to follow anymore because I turned mine off, and that makes it worse because now I'm blind. My chest feels tight and I can't get enough air. What is he saying to her right now? Is he showing her those photos he copied? Is he telling her I sent him there? The fake text said we had something to tell her. We, like we're a team, like we're together in this. Priya comes out of the conference room and finds me standing in the hallway, gripping my phone with both hands. Her eyes go wide when she sees my face. I must look unhinged. I feel unhinged. I can feel my pulse in my fingertips where they press against the glass of the screen, and the fluorescent lights overhead seem too bright suddenly, humming in a way I've never noticed before, and the whole floor tilts a little like the ground has gone soft under my shoes. She stops mid-step, one hand still on the conference room door, and I watch her read my expression the way you read a warning sign, all at once, the meaning arriving before the words do. Nathan, she says, and there's a question folded into my name, and I open my mouth and everything comes out at once. I explain what's happening, the words tumbling out so fast I'm not sure they make sense. The fake text, Damon leaving an hour ago, Reese not answering. I hear myself saying it and it sounds like a fever dream, like something I'm describing from a movie I half remember. And even as I say it, I keep thinking there has to be a version of this where I'm overreacting, where Damon just went home sick, where the text was some glitch, where Reese is fine and driving to the store and left her phone on the counter. I keep reaching for that version and it keeps dissolving in my hands because I know Damon's desk is empty. I know his bag is gone. I know he left over an hour ago, and I know exactly which direction he drove because there's only one place that text was pointing him. Priya's face goes pale. It's not the color-draining slowness of someone hearing gossip. It's fast, all at once, like the blood just leaves. And something about that scares me more than anything, because Priya is unflappable. Priya is the person who stays calm during system outages and client blow-ups and the time the sprinklers went off on the 4th floor. Priya does not go pale, and she's gone pale. Okay, she says. Okay, tell me again. Slower. I try. I hold up my phone and show her the text sent from my own number at 4 in the morning, the timestamp sitting there like a taunt. We need to talk. Coming to see you today. We have something to tell you. Love, D. She reads it twice, her lips moving slightly, and then she looks up at me and I see her doing math behind her eyes, connecting things, and her expression changes into something I haven't seen on her before. He's been getting worse, she says quietly. I didn't want to say anything because I kept telling myself I was imagining it, but he's been getting worse. My stomach drops. Priya has known. Priya has known and didn't tell me. She admits Damon has been acting even stranger lately, talking about Reese constantly and going through my desk when I'm in meetings. She says it in a rush now, like a dam giving way, like she's been holding all of this behind her teeth for weeks, and it's finally coming loose. She says he'll bring Reese up out of nowhere, in the break room, at the printer, in the middle of a completely unrelated conversation, always with that same soft, admiring tone, always calling her our wife like it's the most natural phrase in the world. She says the first few times she thought it was just Damon, being weird and a little pathetic after his divorce, the kind of thing you roll your eyes at and forget. But then it stopped being occasional and started being constant, and it stopped being about Reese in general and started being about specifics. Where Reese was, what Reese was wearing when she dropped off my lunch, what time Reese's car had been in the visitor lot. How does he know what time her car was in the lot? Priya says, and then she answers her own question, and I watch her horror deepen in real time. The lobby cameras. He watches the lobby cameras. I already knew that. I've caught him at it. The feed minimized in the corner of his monitor when he thinks no one's paying attention. The grainy black and white rectangle of our building's entrance sitting there among his spreadsheets. But hearing Priya say it, hearing it come from someone else's mouth, turns it from a thing I'd noticed and half dismissed into a fact with weight, a fact that means something, and the meaning is not good. She says she's seen Damon standing by my cubicle when I'm gone, just touching my things, not taking anything, not obviously snooping, just standing there with his fingertips resting on my keyboard, on the framed photo I keep angled toward my chair, on the coffee mug I leave out, standing there the way you'd stand in a church, she says, and I know exactly what she means, and I hate that I know. Reverent, like the desk was an altar, like being near my things put him near something he wanted. She's heard him talking to himself about Reese in the stairwell when he thinks no one's listening. Priya takes the stairs, she always has, some fitness thing, and she says more than once she's come around a landing and heard Damon's voice below her, low and conversational, and she'd assumed he was on a call until she got close enough to realize there was no call, that he was just talking, murmuring, and the word she kept catching was Reese. Reese, Reese, our wife, our Reese, said the way you'd practice a speech, said the way you'd rehearse. She'd frozen on the landing, she says, and waited until he left, and then she'd told herself it was nothing, that everyone talks to themselves, that she'd misheard. Last week, Priya caught him trying on my blazer in the empty conference room, looking at himself in the dark window reflection. She says it so quietly, I almost don't hear it, and then the image lands and I feel sick. My spare blazer, the one I keep in my desk drawer for last-minute client meetings, the one Damon was wearing when Reese found him in my chair. Priya says she'd gone into the conference room to grab a charger she'd left behind, the lights off, the blinds half drawn, and Damon was standing at the window with his back to the door, my blazer on his shoulders, turning slightly from side to side, studying his own dim reflection in the glass, like a man trying on a life. She says he didn't hear her. She says she backed out without a word and stood in the hallway with her heart going and told herself again that it was nothing, that it was just Damon being strange, that making a thing of it would only cause problems. Priya thought about saying something, but didn't want to start drama. I'm so sorry, she says, and her eyes are wet now. I should have told you. I kept thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if I make it weird? What if HR gets involved over nothing and I've ruined a guy's reputation because he's lonely and awkward? I kept giving him the benefit of the doubt. She stops. I'm so sorry. And here's the thing I'll think about later. In the car, in the courthouse, at 2 in the morning, staring at a doorbell feed. I can't even be angry at her. I want to be. Part of me, the animal part, the part that would burn down the whole building to get to Reese right now, wants to grab Priya by the shoulders and scream that she should have said something weeks ago, that a warning weeks ago might have meant Reese wasn't alone in our house with him right now. But I understand exactly why she didn't, because I did the same thing. I laughed off the our wife jokes. I told myself Damon was harmless. I explained away every single escalation as it happened, one small strange thing at a time, each one just barely deniable, each one just barely inside the range of a weird lonely coworker. And it was only now, all of them stacked up together in a single terrible column, that they added up to something with a shape, something predatory, something that had been circling us for 2 months while we told ourselves stories about why it was fine. I make the decision immediately. I'm driving home right now, even though I have a client presentation this afternoon. The presentation. I actually think about it for half a second. Some reflex from the version of my life that existed this morning. The deck I spent 3 nights building. The client flying in. My manager's expectations. The whole architecture of things that mattered to me before the sticky note on my monitor turned everything to static. I think about it, and then I let it go so completely it's almost frightening. Like watching a helium balloon slip out of a child's hand and just keep rising, getting smaller, gone. I don't care about the presentation. There is no version of me that sits in a conference room walking a client through elevation renderings while Damon is standing in my driveway. There is no career, no deadline, no consequence that weighs anything at all against the image in my head of Reese opening our front door to a man who has been rehearsing her name in a stairwell. I have to go, I say. I have to go right now. You're not driving, Priya says, and it isn't a question. And I look down at my hands and realize she's right, that they're shaking so badly I couldn't hold a wheel steady, couldn't trust myself at a green light, let alone the highway, couldn't focus on anything past the roaring in my ears. Priya offers to come with me for support and I'm so grateful I could cry. I actually feel it, the sting behind my eyes, the sudden swell of something in my chest that isn't fear for once. That's the opposite of fear. That's the feeling of not being alone in a moment when I was about to be very alone. I'm too panicked to drive alone. My hands are still shaking. I keep opening and closing them, willing them to stop, and they won't. And Priya sees it and doesn't make me say it. Priya says she'll drive and I can keep trying to reach Reese. She's already moving, already turned back toward her desk, already digging in her bag, and there's something steadying about watching her act, watching competence take over where panic is drowning me. She grabs her keys and tells our manager we have a family emergency. I hear her say it down the row of cubicles in a voice that leaves no room for follow-up questions. Family emergency, we have to go, I'll call you. And our manager says something I don't catch and Priya says something back, and then her hand is on my arm steering me toward the elevator, and I'm grateful she doesn't take the stairs today. Grateful I don't have to walk down through the place where she heard him saying Reese's name in the dark. We're in her car within 10 minutes. 10 minutes that feel like an hour. The elevator crawling down, the lobby stretching out impossibly long, the parking garage a maze of concrete pillars and squealing tires, and the whole time my thumb is working over my phone, calling. In the elevator I call Reese. Voicemail. In the lobby I call Reese. Voicemail. As Priya unlocks the car with a chirp of the fob, I call Reese one more time, and it goes to voicemail again. Her voice bright and ordinary in the recording. Hi, you've reached Reese. Leave me a message. The sound of her from some sunny afternoon when nothing was wrong, and it guts me. That little recording. That scrap of her voice from before. Priya drives while I keep trying Reese. Voicemail. I try texting. No response. I type, where are you? I type, are you okay? I type, Damon is coming. Do not let him in. I type, call me the second you see this. And I watch the little gray delivered turn to nothing. No read receipt, no 3 dots, nothing. My words dropping into a silence that could mean her phone is in the other room, or could mean something I refuse to finish thinking. The drive home is normally 25 minutes, but at this hour with traffic, it feels like it will take forever. Priya pulls out of the garage into a wall of brake lights, the midday crawl I never see because I'm always in the office at this hour, and every car ahead of us is another few seconds, another few yards Damon has that I don't. She weaves where she can, changes lanes, mutters at a delivery truck double parked in the right lane, and I sit in the passenger seat with my seatbelt cutting into my shoulder because I keep leaning forward like leaning forward will make the car go faster. Every red light makes my throat close up. We hit one at the bottom of the hill and I actually make a sound, a small involuntary sound, watching the light hang red while cross traffic slides through the intersection with maddening ordinariness. People going to lunch, people running errands, a whole city full of people whose spouses are not currently alone with a man who has been building a shrine at a desk. Priya reaches over without looking and squeezes my knee once hard and says, we're going to get there. Keep trying her. Is Damon in our house right now? The question won't stop cycling. Is he standing on the porch? Did Reese let him in because she didn't know who he was? That's the one that terrifies me most, that she'd have no reason not to. She's met Damon exactly a handful of times. At the holiday party, in passing when she's dropped off my lunch, and every one of those times he was charming and polite and completely, expertly normal. If Damon knocks on our door with that soft, earnest face and says Nathan sent me, he's worried about you, she has no reason in the world to think anything is wrong. She'd open the door. She'd probably offer him coffee. The thought makes me want to claw out of my own skin. The not knowing is the worst part. If I knew she was safe, I could breathe. If I knew she was in danger, I could at least point all of this terror in one direction. But the not knowing is a live wire, sparking against everything, and it fills the silence in the car with every possible version of what's happening 20 miles ahead of us where I can't see. I read the fake message again. I don't know why I do it. It only makes things worse, but I open the text thread and I read it again like maybe this time it'll say something different. We have something to tell you. Love, D. The casual cruelty of it, as if he belongs in my marriage, as if there's a we that includes him, as if he and I are partners in in some project of delivering news to Reese, some intimate arrangement, and the sign-off, Love D, the affection in it, the assumption of affection, makes my skin crawl. He signed a message to my wife from my phone with love. He put his single initial where I'd never sign anything, because Reese knows my texts don't end that way, and that's the whole point. That's the little flag he wanted her to catch. The who is D, the seed of a story where there's a mysterious someone in my life she doesn't know about. He's not just coming to our house. He's coming with a narrative, and he built the narrative in the middle of the night, on my phone, while I slept next to it. And the intimacy of that, the fact that he stood over my sleeping body or reached into my life while I was unconscious, is a violation I can't hold in my head for more than a second at a time. Priya starts talking, and I realize she's been keeping notes about Damon's behavior because it disturbed her. She says it almost apologetically, like it's a strange thing to admit, that some weeks ago she started writing things down, not on purpose at first, just a line in her phone here and there when something Damon did stuck to her wrong, and then more deliberately once she noticed a pattern forming. She pulls out her phone at a red light and shows me dates and times and descriptions. I hold it while she watches the light, and I scroll, and my mouth goes dry. It's not a vague list, it's a log. Each entry has a date, sometimes a time, a few clipped sentences of what she saw, the times he stood at my empty desk, 3 separate entries, one with the note fingers on N's keyboard for like a full minute, didn't take anything, just stood there. The weird comments about sharing everything, whole exchanges she'd typed out from memory, the our wife, so we share, right? The you're so lucky, the my ex could never. The way he watched the lobby cameras, an entry that just says D minimized the lobby feed when I walked up, closed it fast, acted normal. Priya has pages of notes going back weeks. I scroll, and they keep coming. Further back than I expected, back before I even started clocking the escalation myself. And I understand that Priya's alarm predated mine, that she'd sensed the wrongness of this earlier than I did, and just didn't trust herself enough to name it out loud. That word again, problems. She says she should have told me sooner but didn't want to cause problems. It's the same word she used before, and I hear how much weight that little word has been carrying, how it's the word that keeps decent people quiet, the fear of being the one who makes a thing into a thing, the fear of being wrong and dramatic and difficult, the fear of ruining someone over a feeling you can't quite prove. I tell her it's okay, that I missed the signs too, and I mean it, even through the fear, even through the small, treacherous flare of, why didn't you say something? Because how can I hold it against her when I was living inside the same fog, that we both thought Damon was just lonely and bitter after his divorce? That was the story. That was the frame we both used, the generous frame, the frame that let us keep sitting near him in the break room and saying good morning and accepting his banana bread. Lonely, bitter, going through a hard time, a sad man overcompensating, not a dangerous one closing in. It was the reasonable read, it was the kind read, and it was completely, catastrophically wrong, but seeing it written down like evidence makes it real. That's what does it, finally, more than my own 2 months of accumulating dread. Priya's notes, dated and time-stamped and dry, the way she'd record anything, turned my nightmare into a document, and a document is undeniable. A document is a pattern. This isn't just a coworker being weird. Reading her log, watching 2 months of small, strange things line up into a single, unbroken trajectory, I finally let myself think the word I'd been circling around all morning. This is something dangerous. 20 minutes into the drive, I finally get a text from Reese. The buzz of it against my palm makes me jump so hard my knee hits the underside of the glove box. I fumble the phone, nearly drop it, catch it, and there's her name on the screen, Reese. And for one weightless second, relief crashes through me so hard my eyes flood. She texted, she's okay, she's able to text, and then I read it. The message makes everything inside me freeze. Your coworker is here standing in our driveway, and he's telling our neighbor that you sent him to check on me because you're worried I'm depressed. This is insane. Where are you? I read it 3 times. The words rearrange themselves each time and land the same way each time, worse each time. He's there, present tense, standing in our driveway. And he's not just there. He's already working, already talking to a neighbor, already spinning it, already 3 moves ahead of me. Damon is telling people I sent him. He's using that fake text as proof. That's what the 4 a.m. message was for. That's the whole architecture of it. It was never really meant for Reese. It was meant to be evidence. It was meant so that when he showed up unannounced at our house, he could hold up his phone and say, look, Nathan told me, look, we've been talking. Look, he was worried. And to any bystander, any neighbor, any officer, it would look real because it is real, because it came from my number, because there it is in black and white. He's making himself the concerned friend and making me look like the controlling husband who sends people to check up on his wife. And it's such a clean inversion, such an efficient piece of cruelty that for a second I can almost admire the horror of it. He's flipped the whole thing. In his version, he's the good guy, the loyal friend answering a call for help. In his version, I'm the paranoid husband, the one who thinks his wife is falling apart, the one who couldn't be bothered to come himself and sent a coworker instead. And Reese, standing in the middle of it, becomes the fragile thing everyone's worried about, the depressed wife, the object of concern, stripped of her own voice in a story 2 men are telling about her on her own front walk. I text immediately explaining that Damon sent that text from my phone without permission, and that I'm on my way home right now. My thumbs slip on the screen. I type it too fast. Backspace, retype. He faked that text. I never sent it. Do not believe anything he says. I'm 15 minutes away. Priya is driving me. Do not go inside with him. Stay where the neighbor can see you. I tell her about the sticky note, about waking up to find the text already sent, about how I've been trying to call for an hour. I try to compress 2 months and one horrifying morning into a message she can read in the time it takes Damon to say another sentence. And I know it's not enough. I know it's a mess, but I hit send and I watch it deliver and I beg the screen. 3 dots appear. Reese is typing. They hang there pulsing and I hold my breath and Priya says, "What's she saying?" And I say, "Hold on, she's typing." And the dots pulse and then they vanish and my heart drops and then they come back. Then his response comes through. He's being very calm and reasonable, which is somehow scarier than if he were yelling. That makes my blood run cold. I read her words and something about the specific detail of them, calm and reasonable, lands harder than if she'd written he's screaming or he's scaring me. Because I know that calm. I've seen that calm. That calm is the most dangerous thing about him. Of course, Damon is calm. Yelling would give him away. Yelling would make the neighbor call the police, would make Reese slam the door, would break the spell. Calm is the whole strategy. Calm is reasonable. Calm says, I'm the sane one here. Calm lets him stand in my driveway and rewrite my marriage in a pleasant conversational voice while everyone around him nods along. Because people trust calm, people distrust the frantic one. And right now, the frantic ones are me and, if she's smart, Reese. And the calm one is the man who wrote a breakup letter in my name. He was calm when he wore my blazer. I keep thinking about it. The image Priya gave me, Damon turning slowly in front of the dark window in my jacket, unhurried, studying himself, not a flicker of shame or panic, just quiet, absorbed pleasure. He was calm when he copied my photos, standing at my unlocked computer, our honeymoon on the screen, sending our private life to himself one image at a time with the unbothered patience of a man doing something he felt entitled to do. Everything he's done, every escalation, he's done calmly. That's what makes it a campaign instead of a breakdown. A breakdown is loud and messy and short. This is quiet and neat, and it has been going on for 2 months, and it is still going on right now in my driveway, in a reasonable tone of voice. Priya suggests we stop at a gas station to document everything. She says it out of nowhere, at a red light, in the same steady voice she used to tell our manager we had an emergency. And at first I don't understand, because every cell in my body is screaming to keep driving, to close the distance, to get there. We're 15 minutes out, she says. We're going to get there either way, and right now everything is fresh, and it's all on your phone, and if something happens you want it saved and organized, not scattered. 5 minutes, trust me. Screenshots of the fake text, the sticky note photo I took, the draft email, the timeline of behavior. She says we need evidence in case this becomes a legal issue. Legal issue. The phrase stops me. I hadn't even thought about that. My brain has been entirely inside the next 15 minutes, entirely inside the driveway, and Priya, calm Priya, is already thinking about the weeks and months after, about courtrooms, about proof, about the version of this that gets written down and handed to someone with the power to make Damon stop. And I realize she's right, that the panic in me only sees the emergency and she's seeing past it, and that maybe the most useful thing I can do in the next 5 minutes isn't stare at the highway willing it shorter, but turn my shaking hands to something that matters later. We pull off at the next exit and park. A gas station, half empty, a guy filling up a truck at the far pump, the ordinary bright banality of it almost obscene against what's in my chest. Priya puts the car in park and says, "Okay, show me everything you've got and we'll grab it all." And having a task, a small concrete sequence of things to do with my hands, does something for me that nothing else has all morning. It gives the terror somewhere to go. I screenshot the fake 4 a.m. text with the timestamp. I make sure the time is visible, 4:07 a.m. The little gray stamp, proof it came at an hour when I was demonstrably asleep, proof it came from my number. I screenshot old messages where Damon called Reese our wife. I scroll back through weeks of our office thread, the group chat, the direct messages, and there it is over and over. Our wife is so sweet. Look at our wife being helpful. Ah, our wife, dropped like a coin into a dozen conversations, and I capture each one, the casual repetition suddenly damning when you see it all in a row. I screenshot the draft email he wrote. The cruel one, the breakup one, still sitting in my drafts folder where he left it, addressed to Reese, full of things I would never say. And my hands are steadier now, one screenshot at a time, one piece of evidence at a time, building something out of the wreckage. When Priya comes back with water, she helps me organize it into an album labeled with today's date. She's been inside, I realize, while I was screenshotting, and she comes back with 2 cold bottles and takes my phone gently and starts making a new photo album, thumbing through, adding each screenshot, naming it with the date so we'll never have to argue about when this was. She tells me to drink, that I need to stay steady for whatever we walk into. I twist the cap and my hand is shaking less now, and I drink half the bottle in one go, and I hadn't realized how dry my mouth had gone, how long it's been since I could swallow. She caps her own water and puts the car in gear. "You did good," she says. "It's all saved, now we go." We get back in the car and merge onto the highway again. The last stretch is the worst, because it's the last stretch, because every mile marker is one I know by heart heart, the reservoir exit, the shopping plaza, the turn for the elementary school, the ordinary landmarks of my ordinary drive home now strobing past like a countdown. I keep my phone in my hand. Reese doesn't text again. I don't text her again either because I've said everything I can say, and I'm afraid a buzz in her pocket will distract her at the wrong moment. And so we drive the last few miles in a silence broken only by Priya's low, steady voice saying, almost there, we're almost there. We pull onto my street 10 minutes later and I see Damon's car parked crooked in front of our house, half blocking the driveway. My whole body goes cold. It's his car. I know his car. The same one that's appeared at restaurants and the farmer's market. The same one, and seeing it here, angled carelessly across the mouth of my own driveway like he owns the space. Like he was in too much of a hurry to bother parking straight because he belongs here, sends ice straight down through me. Priya slows. The whole scene comes into view like a stage set as we roll up the street, and I take it in one piece at a time, each piece worse. Reese is standing on the porch with her arms crossed, and our next-door neighbor, an older man named Walter who's lived there for 30 years, is standing on his own lawn watching with a frown. Reese is on the porch, up the steps, near the door, arms wrapped around herself, and even from here I can read her body, the tension in her shoulders, the way she's keeping the top step between herself and the walk, keeping distance, keeping high ground without maybe even knowing that's what she's doing. She's okay. She's standing, she's outside, she's not hurt, and the relief of it nearly folds me in half. And Walter, good old Walter, who has lived in that house since before we were born and knows everyone and misses nothing, is out on his lawn with his arms loose at his sides and a deep frown carved into his face, watching, present, a witness, and I've never been so glad to see him in my life. Damon is standing on our front walk, hands clasped, talking in a soft, earnest voice. He's positioned himself between the two of them, on our walk, on our property, hands folded in front of him like a man at a funeral, and he's talking, that low, reasonable murmur carrying just far enough that I catch the tone, but not the words as we pull up. He looks normal. He has a nice sweater on and his face is calm and friendly. That's the thing that undoes me. He looks like a friend who stopped by. He looks like a good man in a nice sweater having a difficult, caring conversation with a worried family. There is nothing in his posture, nothing in his open, pleasant face that would tell a stranger he'd sent a letter in my name last night ending my marriage. He looks completely, perfectly normal, and I know now that the normal is the costume. The normal is the weapon. The normal is how he got 2 months of the benefit of the doubt from every one of us. When he sees Priya's car pull up and me getting out, his whole expression changes. I'm barely out of the door, one foot on the pavement, and I see it happen across the lawn, the shift, and it's like watching a light go off behind a window. The friendly look disappears. It doesn't fade. It drops, all at once, the way a mask drops. The softness and the warmth gone in an instant. And what's underneath is nothing I recognize from the break room or the printer or the 2 months of our wife jokes. His face shifts to something cold and hard that I've never seen before. For 1 second, before he rebuilds it, before he remembers his audience, I see the real thing looking out at me, flat and cold and furious that I've arrived, furious that I've interrupted, and it is the most frightening thing I have ever seen on a human face, and then it's gone, smoothed back over into concern, and if I hadn't been looking right at him, I'd have missed it. Several other neighbors are out, one watering plants, one walking a dog, and they all glance over. It's the middle of a weekday on a quiet suburban street, and my street has decided to be alive today, of all days. A woman 2 houses down with a hose, a man across the way with a small dog on a leash, and all of them turning their heads at the same time toward the raised voices, toward the crooked car, toward the little tableau on my front walk. I'm so glad you finally got here, Nathan. We need to have an honest conversation with Reese, don't we? His voice lifts, pitched now to Carrie, warm and open, and he says it looking at me but performing for them, for the hose and the dog and Walter, and the way he says we makes it sound like we planned this together, like I'm late to a meeting we scheduled, like he and I are the 2 adults here and Reese is the subject on the agenda. More heads turn. There's no way, I say. My voice comes out rougher than I mean it to, and I have to stop and swallow and start again, because I can hear the shaking in it and I refuse to be the frantic one. I refuse to hand him that contrast. You need to leave right now. Nobody invited you here. My voice shakes, but I keep it steady enough. I plant my feet on the edge of my own lawn, and I make myself slow down, make myself match his calm, even though every nerve in me is screaming, because I understand the game now. I understand that whoever seems calmer wins the neighbors, and I will not lose the neighbors to him. Damon tilts his head like I said something funny. It's a small movement, gentle, almost affectionate, the tilt you give a child who said something that isn't true and doesn't know it yet, and it's designed for the audience, the head tilt of a reasonable man being unfairly accused. Reese seemed really glad to see me when I got here, he says, mild as milk. We had a great talk about all the problems you two have been having. She understands now. He delivers it gently, almost sadly. We had a great talk. All the problems you two have been having. She understands now. 3 lies stacked into one soft sentence, each one designed to plant doubt in whoever's listening, each one designed to make me the desperate one for denying it. Reese's face goes red, and she steps back toward the door. She looks sick. I see the words hit her. The great talk, the she understands, the sheer gaslighting audacity of him narrating a conversation that never happened while she's standing right there. And the color floods up her neck and into her face, and she takes half a step back toward our door like she needs the solidity of it behind her, and her expression is the expression of someone watching reality get rewritten to their face and finding they have no idea how to fight something so smooth. She looks sick. She looks the way I feel. Reese comes down off the porch and stands next to me. She doesn't run, doesn't stumble. She comes down the steps deliberately and crosses the lawn and stops at my side, close, her shoulder against my arm, and the simple physical fact of her, warm and real and unhurt beside me, steadies something in my chest that's been unmoored since 4 this morning. Then she turns to Damon, and her voice, when it comes, is not sick anymore. It's furious and it's controlled, and I have never loved her more. I asked you to leave at least 5 times, Damon. You kept saying you were worried about Nathan and needed to make sure I was okay. You wouldn't go. Her voice is firm, but I can hear the strain, the fine tremor under the steadiness, the cost of holding herself together while a stranger stands on her walk telling her neighbors she's coming apart. 5 times. She asked him to leave 5 times and he wouldn't, and the not leaving is its own answer. The not leaving is the whole truth of him, because a concerned friend leaves when you ask. A concerned friend was never going to plant himself on your walk and refuse. Walter clears his throat. It's a small sound, but it lands like a gavel, because Walter doesn't insert himself. Walter minds his business. 30 years of minding his business, and here he is, stepping off his own lawn onto the edge of the property line to speak. He's been out here close to half an hour, he says, and he says it to me, but loud enough for the street, loud enough for the woman with the hose. I came out because he was peering in your windows before you opened the door. I almost called somebody, peering in the windows, before Reese even opened the door. Half an hour. Walter lays it down flat and factual, no drama, just the timeline of an old man who'd been watching, and it changes the air on the whole lawn. Walter looks at Damon differently now. Whatever version of Damon he'd been half believing a minute ago, the nice young man in the sweater with the sad story about worry and depression, that version is gone, replaced by the man Walter actually watched creep along the side of my house and cup his hands against the glass. Priya pulls out her phone and holds it up so Walter and Reese can see. She's been quiet since we parked, letting me and Reese speak, but now she steps forward with the phone already unlocked, the album already open, and she holds it up and turns it so the screen catches the light and the 3 of them can see it, and she starts to talk, and her voice is the steadiest one on the whole lawn. She swipes through the screenshots while she talks. Damon has been stalking them for months. He follows them wherever they go. He went through Nathan's desk and computer without permission. He sent a fake text from Nathan's phone at 4 in the morning. He wrote a fake breakup email pretending to be Nathan. She says it plainly. 1 fact per swipe, the timestamp, the our wife messages, the draft email, each image sliding past under her thumb, and there's no arguing with a screenshot. No reasonable tone that can talk its way over a 4 a.m. timestamp on a message that broke a marriage in another man's voice. Walter's eyes get wider as he scrolls. He leans in, reading, his frown deepening into something graver with every swipe, and I watch the last of the doubt leave him. He steps away from Damon and looks at him like he's seeing someone completely different. Not a neighbor's odd guest, not a worried friend, something else, something he almost called somebody about, and now understands he should have. Damon's calm cracks. His jaw goes tight. Everyone is making this into such a huge deal, he says. I just wanted Reese to know how much Nathan complains about her at work. He's always saying he wishes he'd never married her. He thinks she's clingy and boring. He looks right at Reese when he says it. He actually sent me here to break the news to you because he's too much of a coward to do it himself. His voice gets louder and sharper. I grab my phone and pull up my email with shaking hands. It takes me 3 tries to find the right folder. My fingers clumsy on the screen, and Damon keeps talking the whole time, keeps spinning, and I finally find it and turn the screen toward Reese, toward Walter, toward anyone who'll look. Look at this. He wrote this on my computer pretending to be me. I never wrote any of this. The draft email is still there with all those cruel things. Reese takes my phone and reads it, and I watch her eyes move across the lines. The vicious things. The things in my name that aren't mine, and her expression changes from hurt to confused to angry in about 10 seconds. You wrote this? She says, looking up at Damon, and now her voice is loud too, loud enough to carry. You actually sat at his desk and wrote a fake breakup email and tried to make me believe it? Walter reads over her shoulder and his mouth drops open, and I can see the moment the story flips completely in his head, the moment he stops seeing anything but what's actually in front of him. Reese steps in front of me slightly, putting herself between me and Damon without even seeming to think about it, the same way I'd step toward her, the 2 of us instinctively shielding each other. You need to go, Damon, she says. Right now. Whatever you think is happening, it isn't real. It was never real. Damon's face goes blotchy, red climbing his neck, the calm finally gone, and he opens his mouth to argue, to spin, to say something else. And that's when a patrol car turns onto the street. It comes around the corner, slow, and every head on the lawn turns toward it. Walter waves it down with one raised arm. Apparently he'd called the non-emergency line when he first saw Damon peering in the windows, half an hour ago, before any of us even got here, and it took this long for a car to come, and it's arriving now at exactly the right moment. The officer parks behind Damon's crooked car and gets out. A broad man with a calm, level voice, and he takes in the scene, the crowd of neighbors, the woman with the hose, the man with the dog, all of us clustered on the lawn. Priya doesn't wait. She steps up with her phone still in her hand and shows him the album, the screenshots, the timestamps, talking him through it in that same steady voice, months of it, the desk, the cameras, the photos, the fake text, the email. I show him the draft email on my phone. Walter confirms that Damon was peering in the windows and refused to leave when Reese asked. The officer listens to all of it, his face getting more serious, taking a few notes, and then he turns to Damon. "Sir, you need to leave this property right now. You don't live here and you're clearly not welcome." Damon crosses his arms. "This is a public street," he says, and his voice has lost all its softness now, gone thin and sharp. "You can't make me leave for having a conversation with my friends." His voice climbs. The officer asks for his name and his ID and starts writing, and Damon's face turns redder, and he starts raising his voice for real now, the mask fully off in front of everyone. "This is insane," he says. "Nathan is turning everyone against me because he can't handle that Reese likes me better." More neighbors have drifted closer, and one of them is filming on a phone, and Damon points at me over the officer's shoulder. "You're all going to regret this," he says. "Every single one of you." The officer steps between us, firm, and tells him again to get in his vehicle and leave the area. Damon jerks back from him but doesn't move toward his car, and for 1 second I think he's going to do something worse, and then he looks around at all of it. The officer, the neighbors, the phone filming him, and something recalculates behind his eyes. "You ruined everything, Nathan," he says, and his voice carries down the whole street, raw and hateful. "Everything." He finally gets in his car and slams the door so hard I hear it echo off the houses, and his tires squeal as he pulls away crooked, and the officer follows in his patrol car to make sure he actually leaves the neighborhood before circling back to take our statements. The officer is patient and thorough. He takes it all down, and Reese's hands shake while she talks, and she describes how Damon showed up acting concerned and friendly, asking about her work, about our marriage, and then how he started mentioning things he shouldn't know. The name of the client she's designing for, the coffee shop where she gets her afternoon espresso, the route she runs in the mornings. "He knew my whole routine," she says. "Things Nathan never told him because we barely talk about that stuff at his office. He must have been reading our messages." Her voice breaks on the last word. The officer writes faster. He gives us a case number and tells us to call immediately if Damon comes back, to save every message, to document everything, and he tells us gently that we should think seriously about a restraining order, that this is a pattern and patterns like this don't usually stop on their own. We go back inside and I lock the door behind us and then check it twice, and then I start going through my settings, and the deeper I go, the sicker I feel. I need to change every single password again, everything, and while I'm in my email, I check the login history, and my blood runs cold. There are logins from a device I don't recognize going back almost a month. A month. He's been reading my emails for a month, every message I sent to Reese, every private thing, and he's been reading them long before I ever caught him at my desk. Reese sits beside me and helps me go through account after account, and in my cloud storage we find the same pattern. Damon logged in there too, again and again, opening our photos, the private ones, downloading copies, time-stamped when I was in meetings, time-stamped in the middle of the night. Then Reese finds a document in my cloud storage that I didn't create, and she goes very still. It's a detailed list about her work schedule, her run route, written out by day and time, Tuesdays and Thursdays by the reservoir, the names of her friends, the coffee shop and what she orders, her favorite restaurant. The document has dates going back 2 months, right after Damon's divorce, and it's been added to, updated, refined, like a project he was working on. She's been studying my wife, I think, and the phrase makes me want to be sick. He has been studying my wife like a subject, like a job. Reese scrolls to the bottom, and her face goes white. The last entry was made this morning, just hours ago, before he drove here. He'd added a line about our anniversary, about the lunch she'd planned to surprise me with, details she'd only mentioned to me in a private text the night before. He read it, and then he came here. It's getting dark, and I'm too scared to stay here tonight without doing something, without telling someone who can think clearly. I call my older sister Lena because she's in a counseling program and because she's the calmest person I know. She answers on the second ring, worried, because I never call this late on a weeknight, and I tell her everything, the whole day, the fake text, the drive, the file, the logins going back a month. She listens without interrupting, and when I finish, she's quiet for a moment, and then she says carefully, "Nathan, this matches stalking patterns I've been reading about. Stalkers escalate when the target pulls away or sets a boundary. The surveillance, the file, the fixation, it doesn't just stop on its own." She asks if we've called the police, and I tell her an officer already took a statement, and she says, "Good, that's good." And then she says she's driving over right now and she'll be there in an hour, and we are not to stay alone tonight, and to lock every door and window until she gets there. Reese and I go through the house locking everything, every window latch, the back door, the door to the garage. We sit on the couch with all the lights on, our phones and my laptop spread out on the coffee table, going through the evidence again, and Reese makes coffee even though it's late because neither of us is going going to sleep. Every car that passes on the street makes us both tense, both of us going still, listening until it's gone. Around 2 in the morning, my phone buzzes and we both jolt upright, hearts slamming, and it's a message from an account I don't recognize. A profile created earlier today, no photo, a name that isn't a name. This isn't over. You'll see the truth eventually. My hands shake as I screenshot it before blocking, and Reese reads it over my shoulder and pulls me closer, and we don't really sleep after that, even after Lena arrives and takes the guest room, even with her there. I hear her get up twice in the night to check the doors. In the morning, we go to the police station with Lena. A detective named Owen Castellano meets with us in a small interview room, younger than I expected, with a calm, professional manner that makes me feel slightly less like the ground is going to open up. I explain the whole thing from the beginning while Lena takes notes so I don't forget anything, and he listens carefully and asks about specific dates and times, and he has me show him the login histories and the surveillance document Damon built. His expression gets more serious as he scrolls, and he goes very still at the file on Reese, at the dates going back 2 months. Priya comes to meet us there and shows him her own notes, pages of them, dated and detailed. Reese explains how frightened she is, how Damon knew her routine, her run, her coffee, things she never told him. When we finish, Detective Castellano explains that while one incident on its own might not be enough for criminal charges, the documented pattern over 2 months could support a restraining order, and the digital footprint, the unauthorized logins, the file is strong, stronger than most cases he sees. He tells us to document every single interaction from now on, to save every text and email, to keep a log of when and where Damon shows up, to take photos and video if we can. The more evidence of continued harassment, the stronger the case. He warns us gently but directly that restraining orders don't always stop people like this, that sometimes the attempt to set a legal boundary makes them escalate because the secrecy that protected them is gone, and they feel they have nothing left to lose. He doesn't say it to scare us, he says. He says it so we have a plan. He gives me his direct number and tells me to call immediately if Damon contacts us or shows up anywhere, and he tells me to talk to HR again, this time with the police report in hand. That afternoon, I go back to my office with the police report and meet with the head of HR, a woman named Bernadette Okafor, who I've only spoken to once before. This time, with documentation in hand, her whole demeanor is different. She reads through the report and the timeline, her face getting more serious with every page, and she apologizes that my first complaint was dismissed as an interpersonal conflict, says she had no idea it had escalated this far. Then she tells me something that makes my stomach drop and then flood with relief in the same breath. Damon has already been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation, effective immediately, because 2 other co-workers came forward after word of what happened at my house spread. 2 other people. I'm not the only one he's been frightening. Bernadette offers to let me work remotely for a few weeks while everything gets sorted out, and says my safety comes first, and that the company should have protected me sooner. I choose to work remotely for now. Just knowing Damon won't be in the building, won't be at the desk near mine, makes it easier to breathe. We find a legal aid clinic that handles harassment cases, and a lawyer named Marisol Vega meets with us and goes through all my documentation carefully, taking notes, asking specific questions about dates and times. She says I have a strong case for a civil restraining order. She explains the process. First, we file for a temporary order, then there's a court hearing where a judge decides whether it becomes permanent. She warns me that many people violate these orders, so I need to keep documenting everything and report every single violation, because each violation can become a criminal charge. She helps me fill out the paperwork right there, and she asks, gently, if there's any way I can put distance between myself and Damon, and I tell her about working remotely, and she nods and says good. That's the most dangerous part, the proximity. That same night, the doorbell camera we'd installed catches something. Around 11, my phone lights up with a motion alert, and I open it with shaking hands, and there he is, Damon, standing on our front walk in the dark, just looking at the house. He doesn't ring the bell. He doesn't knock. He just stands there for almost 2 minutes, staring up at our bedroom window before he turns and walks away. I wake Lena and Reese and we watch the clip together, and Lena tells me to send it to Detective Castellano immediately, and I do. Reese sits on the edge of the bed with her head in her hands. He was right outside, she says. He was right outside and we didn't even hear him. The fact that he came back the same night, hours after the police warned him, makes my blood run cold. This is someone who doesn't care about consequences. Detective Castellano texts back within minutes, even though it's late, telling us to stay inside, keep the doors locked, and that the footage strengthens the case significantly, and he'll have a patrol car drive by the neighborhood through the night. 3 days later, Marisol texts to say Damon has been served with the temporary restraining order, and the court date for the permanent order is set for 2 weeks out. That same night, the camera catches him again, around midnight, parked across the street with his headlights off, just sitting there watching the house for 20 minutes before he pulls away. Marisol calls it a clear violation and files a report. A week later, at 2 in the morning, the camera catches him walking up to our front door, trying the handle slowly, finding it locked, and leaving something on the welcome mat before walking away. We don't see it until morning. When I open the door, there's a small wrapped box sitting there, and inside is one of our honeymoon photos printed printed and framed, with a note in Damon's handwriting. "You can't keep what's meant to be shared." My hands shake as I photograph everything before touching it, and I call Detective Castellano, and he arrives within 30 minutes and photographs the box, the framed photo, the note, and bags them all as evidence. He tells me this is a serious violation, and combined with the photo printed from our stolen images, it could support additional charges. The next morning he calls back. Based on the repeated violations caught on camera and the item left at our door, a warrant was issued, and Damon was arrested at his apartment for violating the restraining order and for the unauthorized access to my accounts. My whole body relaxes for a moment and then tightens again when he tells me Damon has already posted bail. His parents paid to get him out, but the judge modified the temporary order, adding specific terms that prohibit Damon from coming anywhere near my home, my workplace, or Reese, with any violation resulting in immediate arrest. He warns me Damon might try to retaliate now that he's out, so I need to stay alert and keep documenting everything. The court hearing for the permanent restraining order happens 2 weeks after I filed, exactly on schedule. I wake up that morning feeling sick with nerves because I have to testify about everything in front of a judge. Marisol meets me at the courthouse and walks me through what to expect, and we sit in the hallway outside the courtroom waiting for our case to be called, and my hands won't stop shaking. When they finally call us in, I see Damon sitting at a table with his lawyer, a sharp-looking woman in an expensive suit. He won't look at me directly, but I can see his jaw clenched tight. The judge is an older woman who looks stern but fair. Marisol presents our evidence first, walking through the timeline of Damon's behavior with photos, text messages, police reports, doorbell camera footage, and witness statements. I have to take the stand and testify about the blazer at my desk, about the fake text, about waking up to find him standing on our walk in the dark, about the box he left at our door. My voice shakes, but I get through it, answering the judge's questions as clearly as I can. Damon's lawyer tries to make it sound like misunderstandings, like he was just a concerned friend who got caught up in drama, suggests I overreacted to normal workplace friendship, suggests his mental health struggles after his divorce make him a victim too, but the evidence is too strong, the police reports too detailed, the camera footage too clear, the pattern too consistent. Priya testifies about his behavior at the office, the desk, the cameras, the blazer in the dark window. Detective Castellano testifies about the arrest and the repeated violations caught on camera, and his professional account carries weight. The judge asks pointed questions that Damon's lawyer struggles to answer convincingly. The judge leans back in her chair and reviews the final documents one more time before speaking. She looks directly at Damon and then at me, her expression serious and measured. She announces that based on the evidence presented, including multiple police reports, video footage, witness testimony, and documented violations, she's granting a permanent restraining order valid for 5 years. Damon must stay at least 500 feet away from me at all times. He must stay away from Reese. He must stay away from my home and my workplace, and any place he knows we frequent. Any violation will result in immediate arrest and criminal charges. I feel my whole body relax for the first time in weeks, like I've been holding my breath underwater and finally broke the surface. When I glance over at Damon, he's staring at me with an expression I've never seen before, pure hatred, cold and focused, like the order is just a piece of paper. But Marisol touches my arm and we walk out the side exit while he's still sitting there. Outside on the courthouse steps, Reese and Priya and Lena are waiting, and when I come through the doors and nod that it's done, that we won, Reese pulls me into a hug so tight I can barely breathe. The order is real, it's on paper, and it has the weight of a court behind it now. He doesn't get to call her our wife anymore. She was only ever mine to stand beside, and today, finally, the law said so out loud.